Welcome back to Tanya in 5. The last few days we've been studying chapter 2 of book 3 in Tanya, Iggeret HaTeshuva. In chapter 1, we defined the mitzvah of Teshuva. That is, that man returns to God with the sincere decision to no longer betray God and to no longer sin. In response, God offers kapara, atonement, and cleanses the person of whatever mess was made in the world and on his soul by that sin. In chapter 2 now, the Alter Rebbe goes to another stage. After Teshuva, after the person has returned to God and God has offered that cleansing, now, however, there's another stage. Because even after forgiveness and even after cleansing, the relationship is still not the same. It's just like a relationship between human beings, say, husband, wife, friends. If one party wronged the other, then of course, that party needs to ask forgiveness and needs to demonstrate that he's willing to change and no longer do that kind of sin again, and he may get the forgiveness. But the relationship is not going to be as it was before. There's only two options. Either the relationship goes cold somewhat, even if there is forgiveness, or the relationship gets deeper. Now, the way to make the relationship get deeper is by the one who made the mistake and got the forgiveness now invests more into the relationship. And that's where the idea of gifts comes from. It's not the gift per se that restores the relationship. It's the fact that the person who has wronged the other demonstrates his willingness to reinvest in the relationship more than he did before. And the same thing is true with our relationship with God. After we've returned to God and demonstrated we're no longer going to sin, and God forgives and cleanses, but now it's time to invest in the relationship and give God a gift that demonstrates our willingness to invest in the relationship and that way rekindle the passion of that relationship. In the times of the temple, that gift would come in the form of an offering in the temple, an animal sacrifice in the temple. Ever since the temple has been destroyed, that investment, that gift, has been offered by fasting, days of fasting and days of prayer. And this explains why you may find in many different books talk about different amount of fasts necessary for different types of sin. If a person did X sin, he needs to fast X amount of time, or did X sin, a person needs to fast X amount of times. Those fasts are not for the Teshuva. We already explained in chapter 1 that the Teshuva is nothing other than a decision to no longer sin. So these days of fasting are really the gifts that the person gives after his Teshuva. After he's already demonstrated to God that he's no longer going to sin. But now he wants to give God a gift to demonstrate his willingness to reinvest in the relationship. That's what that offering was in the temple, and that fast, those fastings that they used to do in Talmudic times and even after Talmudic times. In the next chapter, we're going to talk about how this translates into our days and what we should be doing nowadays to give God a gift, as it were, to show God that we're reinvesting in the relationship. The takeaway from all of this is mitzvahs and averos, mitzvahs and sin, are not two elements that cancel each other out. As if, well, look, I did a sin to self-indulge, so let me do something for God and kind of even the balance sheet. That's not the way it works. Each mitzvah is a standalone good thing, and each sin is a standalone negative thing. And a person needs to do teshuva to demonstrate he's no longer going to sin. Only afterwards can a person give a gift. Only after Teshuva. Then one can say, I'm going to do more mitzvahs for you, God, to demonstrate that I'm reinvesting in the relationship. Imagine a husband comes home to his wife after doing something wrong and says, here's a gift for you, honey. And the wife asks, are you ever going to do that again? And the husband says, well, yes, I'm going to continue, but here's a gift. Obviously, she won't accept it. The gift only comes after you demonstrate that you're no longer going to do that sin. Now you can give a gift to demonstrate that you want to reinvest in the relationship. And the same thing is true of our relationship with God. First, we return to God and say, I am yours. From now on, I'm not going down the path of sin. And only afterwards can we give God all the beautiful gifts he longs to receive from us. Looking forward to seeing you when we conclude chapter 3.